This song is about updating your MySpace.
Next to the Vans Warped Tour, the When We Were Young festivals quickly became the most ambitious emo festivals of all time. October 18th, 2025 marks the 4th annual When We Were Young festival. And somehow, since it's already been 4 years since it started, I thought it would be a cool idea to take a look at each different When We Were Young festival and compare all of them, rank them, and then talk about which one was my favorite. Now, as a disclaimer, I haven't actually been to any of these festivals, but I've done lots of research on each one, watched a lot of YouTube videos, and heard from other people their experiences on each festival. Now, I would have loved to go to all of these festivals, but when the first one happened in 2022, I was a broke college student in my early 20s, and I can't afford $500 tickets to go to these festivals. I wish I could. Maybe one day in a couple years I'll finally get to go. Now, the When We Were Young festival that we all know and love started in 2022. But did you know that the very first When We Were Young festival was actually in 2017? This one was way different than the other When We Were Young festivals. It was a lot more scaled down, a lot smaller of an event, and the main headliner was a band called Morrissey, which honestly I haven't even heard of them before. Other bands that were at this version of the festival included AFI, Descendants, Alkaline Trio, and Early Turnstile, which is pretty interesting to see. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of information about this festival. There's not a ton of videos of it online. It's pretty interesting, and I think a lot of people don't even know that this even happened back in 2017. It feels like a completely whole new rebranding once it started back up again in 2022. I think that everyone can agree that when the lineup got released in early 2022 for that first festival, everybody could not believe that this was actually real. There were so many bands listed on that page, and for so many people, it sounded like a logistical nightmare. How are they going to have all these different bands playing on the same day? Also, the first When We Were Young festival was held in Santa Ana, California, but of course, the rest of them have all been in Las Vegas. Obviously, people loved it because the first day sold out super fast, and then they booked a second day and a third day the following weekend. And it's a good thing they did because the first day got canceled due to wind. I'll never forget reading an article that was titled "Wind We Were Young," talking all about how the first day got canceled and people thought, okay, this is a joke. Lots of people who traveled all the way to Las Vegas just for it to get canceled the day of really were not happy about this. But I know from experience that you seriously cannot mess with wind. Wind and outdoor concert stages do not mix. If you don't believe me, there's a video of a stage that collapses during a fair in Indiana, and it ends up killing several people, and it's really scary. So again, wind is not something to mess with. On a more positive note, when the festival did actually happen on that second day, people loved it. As far as I know, the whole thing went pretty smoothly, and the whole festival was pretty well thought out and organized. This year's main headliners were My Chemical Romance and Paramore, and I gotta say that on that second day, when Paramore came out for the first time, they blew away every single person in that crowd. Paramore came out on stage and they started with the song All I Wanted, which is from their 2009 album Brand New Eyes, and they had never played this song live before. Hayley Williams had actually said in an interview several years before that she was actually afraid to sing this song live because she was afraid that she was going to mess it up. But finally, they decided to give it a go at probably the most iconic time that they could ever possibly do it. The very first day of the headlining set of When We Were Young festival. And they absolutely crushed it. Hayley did such a good job and hit those notes really well. In my opinion, that's probably the most iconic thing we've ever gotten from any When We Were Young festival so far. But lots of other cool things like collaborations and features happened at this festival as well. When Pierce the Veil came out on stage and played King for a Day, they brought out Kellin Quinn, and they were both dressed up in their suits that they wore for the King for a Day music video, which was a huge nostalgia trip for a lot of fans. Also, Pierce the Veil brought out Jeremy McKinnon from A Day to Remember to play on Paraphernalia, which was super awesome to see live again because Jeremy hadn't played on that song live for quite a while. Also, something cool that we did get from the first day of the festival being canceled was that a lot of different bands did a bunch of secret small pop-up shows in a bunch of different small venues all around Las Vegas. Lots of bands did them for free and just kind of like put it on their story last minute, like, hey, we're playing here at 11 p.m., come and find us. But some other bands like Bring Me the Horizon decided to charge for their tickets. And what are you going to do? Some bands will charge, some won't. It's still sold out regardless. But it seems like this kind of sparked with the following festivals that there's also other pop-up shows that bands will do. Because the bands are there for the whole weekend, and sometimes, on Friday night before the festival starts, people are there and they want to go see a show, so they'll do a pop-up show Friday night. Also, let's talk about the merch lines. I've heard these were absolutely insane. I think I've heard that like some people spent like hours and hours waiting in line just to buy a t-shirt. Like spending $500 to go to this festival and then like wasting 4 hours of that festival, or maybe even longer, just waiting in this line that like goes like a mile around. Like, it's crazy. They should seriously try and find a better way to get more merchandise out to these people so that they don't have to waste their entire day waiting in line to buy a shirt that says When We Were Young on it. If they haven't, they should definitely just have the same merch that they sell at the festival available online so people don't have to worry about that on the day of the festival. Some other bands that played at this festival would be bands like The Used, Dance Gavin Dance, Sleeping with Sirens, Pierce the Veil, AFI, A Day to Remember, Silverstein, the All-American Rejects, Knocked Loose, and a ton more. To me, this is a pretty stacked lineup. Now, after counting it up, it seems like from this festival, there were a total of 37 bands that I wanted to go see, and a total of 68 bands that played that weekend. I would definitely put this festival lineup in A tier. Now, because 2022 sold out so fast, the 2023 When We Were Young festival got announced before the first one even happened. And this one headlined with Blink-182, who just recently announced that Tom DeLonge was finally back in the band, and Green Day. Also, this time around, it was only a 2-day festival. There was not a third day the following weekend. Now, this year's festival also had some cool collaborations, but one in particular I wanted to highlight was that they actually had Tony Hawk come out with Goldfinger to sing their song Superman, which of course is the iconic song from Tony Hawk's Pro Skater on the PlayStation 1. 2023's festival also featured a lot of bigger name bands that weren't at the previous years, like Newfound Glory, Sum 41, Yellow Card, Simple Plan, Good Charlotte, and a lot of others. Now, with this year's festival, even though there's a lot of bands on here that I do love a lot, I think overall the count of how many bands were there was a little bit less, and personally there's just a smaller amount of bands that I would actually want to go see. If I went, I'd still have a great time, but there were less bands than last year's festival that would make me want to go. After counting up this one, there were only 17 bands that I would want to go see from this lineup. Pierce the Veil, No Pressure, Citizen, Turnover, those are all bands that would be awesome to see. But there's other bands like Bowling for Soup and the Ataris, 5 Seconds of Summer, Something Corporate, Thrice, all bands that I'm just not particularly interested in seeing. Overall, I think I'm going to give this like a B- tier. When the next festival got announced in 2024, this was a special one for me. I will never forget seeing that poster with all of the different albums on CD laid all over the poster. And then you realize that those bands are playing all of those albums in full. Some for the first time ever, and some not for a really long time. I absolutely love when bands play albums in full because it lets you get to hear so many deep cuts on an album that normally they would never play live. I couldn't wait to watch videos of some of these songs getting played live that have either never been played live ever or haven't been played live in like 15 plus years. This year's festival also gave us the return of Chiodos for the first time in around 9 years. Almost every band played a full album at this festival, except for like Fall Out Boy, who for some reason just wouldn't play an album in full, and they just did a greatest hits set. But we got to see bands like My Chemical Romance play The Black Parade in full, A Day to Remember play Homesick, The Used play In Love and Death, Alisana played The Emptiness, The Wonder Years played The Greatest Generation, Hawthorne Heights played The Silence in Black and White, Cartel played Chroma, Personally, hearing some deep cuts live is what makes a concert for me. If I just get the greatest hits, the most common songs, I don't like it as much. I want to hear songs that they almost never play live. And I think the coolest album that we got to see played pretty much in full was Plagues by The Devil Wears Prada. So many of these songs are songs that the band would never play live anymore. And the fact that we got to see so many back to back, the energy from these videos is so crazy. There is so much hype from these songs being played.
Open that fucking pit!
Now, unfortunately, because of time constraints, a lot of these bands that were supposed to play their albums in full had to cut off 1 or 2 songs because the album was 40 minutes long and they only had a 30-minute time slot, which is seriously unfortunate and a bummer. And I guess it's just something that the festival had to do to get all those bands playing in that one day. So that's a bummer, but at least we did get to see a lot of those songs played live for the first time in so long. Honestly, I might like 2024's lineup more than 2022's, so this might have to go into S tier. And shortly after that, we got the announcement of 2025's When We Were Young Festival. This time, the main headliner, Panic at the Disco and Blink-182. This is huge because just a couple years ago, Brendan Urie basically retired and ended Panic at the Disco. But surprisingly, he's already coming back to play at least this one show so far, where he is performing A Fever You Can't Sweat Out in full. This is the only band or artist that's playing an album in full at this festival. And this is really special for a ton of Panic at the Disco fans. People go crazy over this album, and so many people think that A Fever You Can't Sweat Out is Panic's best album, myself included. This album has so many Panic songs that I absolutely love. And I cannot wait to hear songs like Time to Dance, The Only Difference Between Suicide and Martyrdom is Press Coverage, and Build God, Then We'll Talk live for the first time in over 15 years. This year's festival also features bands like Plain White T's, Ice Nine Kills, The Red Jumpsuit Apparatus, Story of the Year, Sleeping with Sirens, Arm's Length, and a lot of other great bands. This one's also sponsored by 7-Eleven, and I love the green kind of neon and white marketing display that they made because of this. Now, at the time of making this video, this festival has not actually happened yet. It happens in just a few days, but I'm really excited to see how this festival turns out. I always look forward to late October now every single year because we get a new festival for When We Were Young and a new announcement of the next festival, and you get to see what bands are coming back, and it's a really exciting time. Also, I seriously think that When We Were Young has become the catalyst for a lot of bands that previously were broken up or kind of on hiatus to come back and start making more music again and going on tour because they see the popularity from these festivals that emo music is back and it's more popular probably than it ever was. There was a time when this festival probably could not have happened like 10 years ago, and that's why festivals like the Warped Tour ended, because people weren't showing up as much. Now, personally, I feel like the When We Were Young festivals has the demographic between people my age in their early 20s to people in their 30s to people in their mid to late 40s at this point. The people who grew up with these bands in the early 2000s, time has passed, they have kids, they have families, and 10 years ago they might have been early on in that development where they didn't have the time or the extra money to go spend on these festivals and these bands, but now they've gotten a little bit older, they have some more disposable income, and they can go and see these bands that they love so much now. And then there's people like me who don't have families yet, and they work their ass off to go see these bands that they love because they're passionate about them and they want to support them as much as they can. Personally, I feel like bands like Story of the Year, Yellow Card, Panic at the Disco, Chiodos, The Starting Line, Set Your Goals, and some other bands may never have even come back if it wasn't for the success that When We Were Young showed people that money is still out there to be made and people still want to come and see your band live. And that's why I'm forever grateful and thankful for the When We Were Young festivals, that they actually brought all these bands back, and now the Vans Warped Tour is back too. It's definitely not on the same scale as it was back in the day, because there's a lot less locations, but it's still really cool that it's even back at all. I recently heard an interview with Will from Cartel saying that if it was the same way it was 20 years ago, they couldn't do it anymore because they're older and it's too hard on them these days. But also, surprisingly, there's some bands that we still haven't seen play at these festivals that I'm surprised we haven't seen, and I'm hoping that soon we'll get to see them. Bands like Linkin Park, 3 Days Grace, Breaking Benjamin, Angels and Airwaves, Brand New, Falling in Reverse, Bullet for My Valentine, and Circa Survive are all bands we haven't seen at these festivals that I feel like would fit if they played there. Personally, I would not be surprised to see Linkin Park headlining the 2026 When We Were Young festival. I think that this year's festival, I'm going to go ahead and put it in B+ ranking. I think 2024 has got to be my favorite, and then 2022 after that, and then 2025, and then 2023. Oh, and the 2017 festival, probably like, I don't know, C-. So, When We Were Young, have you been to any of them? Have you been to all of them? What are your thoughts on each one? Which of the 4 main When We Were Young festivals we've had has been your favorite? Which band have you been most excited to see that they've come back because of these festivals? What's a band that you would really like to see play at a future When We Were Young festival? Do you wish that When We Were Young was kind of like Warped Tour back in the day where there were a bunch of different locations all across the US? Or do you like that it's just in one location every year? Guys, thank you so much for watching, and please be sure to subscribe to this channel. Go ahead and like that video, leave a comment, and you can follow me on social media. Instagram, TikTok, follow me on there at Hayden Radcliffe. I'm trying really hard to grow a following and a fan base and a community on every different platform. I want to grow and see where this thing takes me. Pop punk, emo, or post-hardcore, follow this channel because I'll be making content as often as I can all about my favorite bands, albums, and songs. Alright guys, thanks for watching, and until next time, peace out.